Oh, do I have dirty hands? I'm wearing white. I don't know how to wear white. Hey guys, it's Lucky Hell. Welcome back to my channel. If you are one of my returning subscribers, I freaking love you guys. Hello, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, I think you should subscribe. I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to do. It would be cool if you did that. We have like this little thing here where we're really nice to each other and we're not nasty or mean, and yeah. Okay, so I asked on Snapchat the other day what people would like. By the time this comes out, it'll be like the other week, but anyway, I asked on my Snapchat what kind of videos you guys would like to see, if there were any questions or requests. A couple of people asking me questions about Finland and how I moved there, how long I lived there, my experience in Finland, and what Finnish people could do better to welcome foreigners. And I just thought that is such an amazing idea for a video. I have such mad love for Finland. Suomi on mun sydämen tosi lähellä, koska mun koko elämä on muuttunut, kun asun siellä. Ja tapasin monta mun paras ystäviä. It's quite hard for me to talk Finnish without feeling like a complete and utter idiot, because I'm not very good at it anymore, and I don't speak Finnish every day because I haven't lived there for a little while. And even when I was living there the last couple of years, I was traveling so much with my job that I was only in Finland about 3 months per year for like the last 3 years. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about how I ended up in Finland, why I went there, why I stayed. Oh, can we not do this? Little hair. It's like a baby. Ah, fuck my hair. So in 2004, I met a guy named Jussi on BME, and he was just this crazy badass guy, and he was like doing fire on his head and doing his own subdermal implants on himself, and he was just like the coolest fucking thing ever, and he was covered in tattoos. He owned a tattoo studio. He was basically the epitome of cool for me, 19-year-old goth slash punk girl who just thought tattoos and all this weird stuff was just so cool. Anyway, Jussi decided he wanted to come for another holiday in Australia because he is an avid traveler, and he ended up having to stay with me, and it was just like we just hit it off instantly and we got on really well. We had a really great time. He did my tongue split, I did my first ever suspension with him, and I got my first ever taste of performing as a sideshow artist because I helped him do a show, one of the first kind of sideshow hook shows in Perth since Stellark had been around. Way before I didn't even know who Stellark was back then. I was very uninformed, and we were one of the first kind of like modern sideshows to do a show in Perth. Jussi went back to Finland and lived his life. We kind of kept in contact on BME and through email and so on, and then some years later I decided I'm going to move to London. So in 2007 I think I moved to London, and I didn't know anyone, and I remember I sent Jussi a message saying, hey, I'm in Europe, let's go to Amsterdam. You know, typical little Aussie stoner girl wanted to go to Amsterdam, and he said, why don't you come to Finland instead, and I could take you up north to Lapland where are the reindeer and Santa Claus and the whole like Narnia vibe that he had told me about when he visited me in Australia. So I went to Finland for 2007, 2008 New Year's, and I instantly kind of fell in love. The people were very quiet. They didn't really talk to me very much because I couldn't speak Finnish, but they were very sweet. On the first day I arrived in Tampere airport and we drove straight to Joensuu for the first night, and then the next morning we got up and drove many hours to Rovaniemi. Rovaniemi is like the main capital city, I guess, of the Lapland area. Lapland is the north of Finland, kind of like just before the Arctic Circle and beyond. And I am telling you, when we say Narnia vibes, it is literally like you've walked through that wardrobe. Like, it is the most magical winter wonderland you can ever imagine. It is like nothing else on earth. Now, Sweden, Norway and Russia also have their own Lapland. They have their own winter wonderland. Finland somehow has like laid claim to Santa Claus, which is really cool. And when you drive past the Arctic Circle, it says you're driving over the Arctic Circle, which for someone like me who comes from Australia and who lived 22 years of my life in Australia, in one of the hotter parts of Australia, where on Christmas and New Year's I would like peel myself off the bed and really hope I could go for a swim in the morning because it was like between 35 and 45 degrees Celsius, like sweaty little motherfucker up in there. If you're from Australia or you're from Africa or you're from the Middle East, when you come from like hot, humid, sweaty, sandy, red, dirty, deserty kind of climate, it's very orange and red, and it's like dusty, and there's a lot of yellowy oranges, and it's like this kind of color scheme. And then when you go to the north of Finland, everything is just white like crazy, and the snow in Finland fucking sparkles. Like, it is like glitter. It is unbelievable. I remember we were driving on like a very basic road in Lapland, and we pulled into what is basically a car park for a little lookout, and I was just tripping at this car park because it was like the most beautiful place I'd ever been. There were trees covered in all this sparkling glitter snow, and then there was like a signpost saying that it was a parking spot, and it was like covered in white crystallized snow, and it was just glitter, like glitter everywhere. It was like it snows glitter in this place. Like, where the fuck am I? Like, the Narnia looks amazing in the pictures and in the movie when they describe it, and when you see it in the film. Imagine that, but like glittery, like literally like showgirl, drag queen, winter, like white glitter everywhere. It is unbelievable. I have since found out that snow, heavy snow, is not glittery everywhere. It really depends on how clean the air is, and Finland's air is so clean. The snow is just, I mean, it sparkles in the dark. Like, you don't even need a light for it to sparkle, and when you do shine light on it, it's just like, ah! It's crazy beautiful. So my first experience of Finland was literally the most magical time of year. I went up to the Arctic Circle. I tripped out in a car park because of the glittery snow and the absolute beautifulness of it all. I remember we went to the Arctic Circle. I remember we went to Santa's village and took a photo with Santa, and there was like a little knife shop in Santa's village because they make really good knives in Finland, and I just thought, man, this place is so badass and cool and beautiful. And for me, something that was really pivotal in my life was, this was the first New Year and birthday I had ever spent sober since I was about 13 years old. My birthday is right after New Year, and this was like my 23rd birthday. So this was the first time in 10 years that I experienced my birthday like I'd just woken up and I was breathing air and it was normal. Like, that's like never happened since I was so young. Holy crap, where am I in my life? Like, it was such a huge pivotal change for me, mentally and physically, to be in that position then on my 23rd birthday and realizing, holy crap, like, life can be really beautiful, you know? And I just remember, like, we didn't even want to put on any music. We sat in silence for quite a few hours, just enjoying the experience of being together and being in this beautiful place. I think also sitting in silence in that car is a really good analogy for my experience in Finland, because one of the things I learned in Finland was how to just be quiet. As a Westerner, as a like very much, I'm a talkative person. I'm very kind of, I'm not like outgoing in the sense that I'll walk into a room and be like, yo, nope. I'm very unlikely I'm gonna walk into a room anyway. I have agoraphobia. But what I mean is, once you get me talking, like, it's really hard for me to shut up. Like, I love telling stories, I love talking, I'm very talkative. In Finland, it's a very different culture. They don't spend a lot of time talking for no reason. Even the linguistics of the country, there's not a lot of extra words, kind of additional words that we use in English are just like not in the language. And when Finnish people create a sentence to tell you something, in the linguistics, they kind of use the most simple form possible and the fewest words possible. And being silent is something that is inherently Finnish. They're a very kind of quiet people. They're not talkative. It's not just a cultural thing, it's also something to do with a society and the way they want to interact with each other. They don't want to impose on anyone else's personal space, and this goes as well with noise and speaking. I remember I had someone visiting me from Canada. They were having a little bit of an anxiety attack and they were freaking out that everyone hated them, and I was like, why do you think they hate you? And she was like, well, look at them, they're not talking to me, they're just ignoring me. And I was like, all right, come here, let's go and look out the window. And this was like at midsummer, like party, all go to a cabin and spend the weekend together kind of thing. And I was like, look out the window, what are the Finnish people doing? And she was like, they're not talking to each other. I was like, right, they're not talking to each other. They're Finnish. They don't talk a lot in general. It's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's that they don't talk very much. Like, there are 7 Finnish people who are very good friends who have all like paid money to come and hang out for a weekend in a cabin together during the biggest kind of celebratory period in the Finnish calendar. And they're all sitting there in silence and they enjoy that silence. This ability to sit in silence and enjoy silence is such a Finnish thing. I think in the West, often we try to fill silences a lot with bullshit or lies or just small talk. We're really afraid to sit in silence, and often a silence is called an awkward silence. And one huge thing I've learned in Finland is that an awkward silence is only awkward if you make it awkward. There's a real beauty in just sitting in a comfortable silence. And if you can sit with someone and not have to talk all the time, I think it's a really, really good sign that you are actually really good friends with this person, or you're quite close with this person, because you don't have the need to always fill the space with pointless words, you know? So that's how I got to Finland. One of the main questions I got was, how can Finland improve for foreigners, and what was my experience living in Finland as a foreigner? I want to say a couple of things. First off, in general, I've lived in a lot of different countries. I've stayed and visited in a lot of different countries. And as far as welcoming foreigners and being easy for a foreign non-native speaker to get around and enjoy the city, pretty much any foreign country you go to that's not an English country, you're not going to be a native speaker there. So as far as countries go, Finland is a really, really great country for this. There is a lot of English at the train stations and bus stations and stuff like this. There's quite a lot of English compared to a lot of other countries, as well as so many people in Finland speak English. Like, there are definitely a lot of people that don't. Of course, there's millions of people in Finland. Not every single person is going to be able to speak to you in English. But compared to like major countries in the center of Europe that are far more trafficked for tourism and have far more English speakers living in them, Finland speaks a lot of English. Like, Paris has to be a main expat for English speakers, and no one here speaks English. It is like so rare if you meet someone that can speak English. Whereas in Finland, you can get by really, really easily without speaking any Finnish if you're only going to stay there for a little while or you're just visiting. So for this reason, I think Finland is one of the easiest places that I've ever been, and the ease at which you can kind of live there when you first live there without speaking the language, a hell of a lot easier than other places. And I think especially that when you go to a government office, which you have to do quite a bit if you immigrate to another country, they always have someone that can speak some English. So this is only my experience, and it's going to be different for every single person that has lived in Finland or has moved to Finland. But the thing that I think Finnish people could improve upon when it comes to making foreigners feel welcome is this. One thing I noticed for sure when I first moved to Finland and I didn't speak or understand any Finnish, and I hadn't even been there that long to like even enroll in school, like my first, 6 months where I was just kind of like figuring out what I was doing there. When you will meet people, if you're a Westerner and you go and you meet someone like in America and you have an accent, pretty much everyone in the group that you meet is going to turn around and be like, oh, where are you from? What's your name? What do you do? How are you finding it here? Do you like it here? They will engage a lot with you because you're a new person. You're a new person from a different country who's been introduced to a group of people who are already having a conversation, and they will make like this big effort to like get to know you and talk to you and include you. And in Finland, it doesn't really quite go that way. Not because they're rude or they don't want to, it's totally a cultural thing. So often in Finland, when you'll go and be introduced to like your friends, group of friends, they'll introduce themselves and they'll shake your hand a meter away from you because that's the Finnish style, and everyone will say their name and you'll say your name, and then they pretty much will turn back and just start speaking in Finnish completely 100%, and they kind of, it's an accidental way that they kind of just like block you out completely as if you don't exist. Like, I remember many times meeting a group of people or like going somewhere and meeting like a bunch of Yusi's friends, be like, hey, I'm Lucky, and they're like, hi, I'm Matti, and hi, I'm Ilya, and like this kind of thing, and then they just turn back to each other and just be speaking Finnish, and I felt like I didn't exist. Like, I felt like, did they just meet me, or was that just a hallucination? Because they're all talking in Finnish and completely forgetting that I'm standing here. And I had so many occasions where I'd be in a house and people would be talking Finnish and everyone would start laughing and I'd just be like, just be funny. Whatever was said. Yeah, I can imagine. Make it up in my head, you know, wow, what could be said? Kill me. And then go back to staring at the wall. Like, it was so weird for me to just be sitting all the time in silence, not understanding anything. You know, it was really hard and really awkward. And also, Finnish people, it's not in the culture to just start talking randomly to someone. It's actually considered rude because they wouldn't want to make you feel uncomfortable. For a Finnish person, if you don't know them and you just start talking to them, that is kind of like, why is this person forcing a conversation on me? Like, this is not what we do. We respect boundaries, you know, physical and verbal boundaries, that we don't need to talk like, I don't know you, why are you talking to me, kind of thing. And it can make someone feel very uncomfortable in Finland if you just start forcing a conversation on them. So in the same way, when you're a new person coming into a group, it's just not in their way of life to just start forcing a conversation onto you, because it's not how they would normally do things and they wouldn't want that done to them. Of course, there's exception to rules, but this is generally what I've noticed. So in this kind of situation, even though it's not really, as a Finnish person, your style to just start talking to some random person you've just been introduced to, and maybe you're not like 100% confident in your English, I can guarantee you your English is way better than this foreign person's Finnish will be for a long time. And if you could make the effort and speak or include this person in the conversation in some little way, even if it's just like every now and then turning to them and saying, we're just talking about how blah blah blah, giving little bits every now and then, translating what's been said, so that the person who's standing there and just feels like, I don't know, an inanimate object of infrastructure, like, that person will feel like, oh, okay, you're talking about that. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Oh, yeah, that's a funny story. I can imagine that. You know, little things like this can make a huge difference to how included you feel and how welcome you feel amongst Finnish people. My best friend in Finland, Rakel Lieki, is one of the only people to do this when I first moved to Finland. Yes, it's because she's very well spoken in English and she's very confident when she speaks in English because she's been in the media for years and years. But I remember she was the only person who really did this out of the like hundreds that I met in my first couple of years of living in Finland. I remember we were walking through a supermarket and Jussi saw Rakel and they kind of were like, hey, and Jussi introduced me to Rakel and then they started talking in Finnish and I was kind of like, well, I'll just wait until they finish and I'll like look around, kind of thing. And after like a couple of sentences, Rakel turned to me and said, we were just saying that you just moved to Finland and it's like been quite a shock, but you're already looking for a school to start learning Finnish. That's really cool. And I was like, oh my god, she's talking to me. She cares that I'm here. Like, my existence is important to this beautiful woman. Thank you. It was such a beautiful thing that she made that effort to include me in this little conversation about me. I didn't know it was about me. It could have been about anything, but she made the effort to include me in their conversation and let me know what they were talking about, so I didn't just feel like an inanimate object standing next to them. It took me a long time to realize that Finnish people didn't hate me. Like, I definitely had this thing at the beginning when I first moved to Finland. I would meet some of Jussi's friends and afterwards I'd be like, I don't think they like me. And Jussi would be like, why? And I'm like, I just don't think they like me. And it's because they didn't make any like effort to engage with me. Not because they didn't want to, it's just like that's how it is in Finland. But I really took it personally and I felt like that person must hate me. And years later I realized that a lot of people are just not very confident speaking English. They can speak English, but they're a little bit nervous to speak. Some people don't know as much English as others, so they really just feel like they've got no place to start speaking because it's just so hard for them. And also the cultural thing that they just don't start talking random stuff for no reason to people they don't know. It really takes a Finnish person a while to get to know you, to feel comfortable, to feel like they have something to talk with you about, you know? If they don't really have any connection to you, they don't really use small talk. So what would they say to you if they don't know you? In Finland, it's kind of like you don't really use small talk. I can't tell you how Finnish people get to know each other because they find a way. Often alcohol is included in that. It really takes quite a while to become friends with someone in Finland. That's what I've noticed. Whereas in the West, you could be friends with someone like meet them in a supermarket line and you start talking and you swap numbers and it's all like, yeah, girl. It's quite surface level. Whereas when you take longer to become friends with someone, feels it a little bit deeper. This is, I think, the only thing I can think of that would make foreigners feel more welcome. There is quite good integration in Finland. As I said, there's quite a lot of good English. There are really good systems in Finland when you do immigrate. You can easily find very cheap schools that will give you quite good Finnish classes. One amazing thing about Finland that is quite unique to Finland, I think, is that when you first learn a language of a foreign country, it is really, really, really nerve-wracking to speak what you've just learned because you're not even sure if you're saying it right. You can't remember half of it. You're pretty sure you're fucking it up and you don't want to insult anyone and you're so embarrassed to even like open your mouth. It is so hard as an adult to learn another language and then try to start using those like 3.5 words that you actually remember from your first 5 months in school, you know. It is so hard, and in a lot of countries when you first try, people will and they like won't understand you and they really will not make an effort. Like it's very, very well known in Paris and in France that when you're trying to speak French, people are really rude if you don't pronounce it exactly right. And people, you could say the same word like so close, so similar, just with a tiny little sound on the end that's different to how a local native speaker would say it, and they will straight up be like, I don't know what you're saying, and just dismiss you completely. And that is like one of the hardest things when you're trying to speak another language, is to be shot down or laughed at or just be told that you're not making any sense at all, when in fact you're pronouncing the word as close to as you can as a new learner. And in Finland, it's very, very different. I've said words that were so off the mark, but the people knew what I was trying to say. I remember I went into like a restaurant and I was trying to ask them where is the toilet, and in my whack way of like using the words I remembered, I was asking them where was the inside of the toilet, and they didn't laugh at me or tell me they couldn't understand. They put 2 and 2 together and they were like, random foreign girl comes in here, she's asking where the toilet is and if she can use it. Treated me as if I was speaking Finnish perfectly, and this boosted my confidence so much. I was like, yeah, I walked into that toilet like, yeah, I can speak Finnish. Like, I thought I was amazing, and this boosted my confidence enough that I kept speaking Finnish and I kept trying. I was calling my asthma inhaler an asthma fart for like years. No one pulled me up on it until I said it to Yusin. He was like, you know that that's a fart, like pumpa, it's a fart, pumpu, it's the pump. And I'd been asking the pharmacist for the asthma fart for so long in so many different pharmacies. No one ever laughed at me. No one ever said that they couldn't understand me or got angry with me because I wasn't making sense or I wasn't pronouncing it right. They put 2 and 2 together and they were really appreciative of the fact that she's really trying to speak Finnish to me, because clearly it's her second language. This is something that is so unique to Finland, and I think other countries could take a huge lesson from this. It is so hard to try and learn another language, and it's even harder to try and use that language in the new country that you're in for fear of being laughed at or not understood or insulting someone. And when people give you a positive feedback and treat you like, yeah, you're making an effort, we love that, it is so important. And Finnish people, they really genuinely do. They know how hard their language is. And when you are there and you even make a little bit of an effort to speak a little bit of Finnish, it goes a long way. I was never scared to try speaking Finnish because every response I got was positive. People were so impressed and so appreciative of the fact that I was even trying to speak Finnish. Even the tiny little bits that I would say was met with absolute positivity and encouragement and positive reinforcement. It made such a huge difference to me continuing to try and speak and trying to further my language skills by giving it a go when I didn't really know how to put a sentence together, but I kind of tried. All I got back was positivity. I never once in all the years I lived in Finland got a negative answer or response from someone when I was trying to speak their language. So this is an amazing, amazing thing. So as far as things that Finland could do to welcome foreigners more, I don't really think there is much more. I mean, it's a huge culture shock, and I definitely encourage Finnish people to try and speak more English and include people into conversations. It feels really nasty. And definitely if you've got someone that's coming into Finland and they're feeling a little bit weird, maybe they're feeling that they're not being very well received, please remind your local foreigner that a lot of these things are cultural differences, and this is how Finland and Finnish people do things, and it's definitely not personal. I love Finland and I will definitely go back throughout the rest of my life. It has a very special place in my heart. My ex and his sister and his mom and his dad, I consider my family, and they consider me a part of the family. So I have family ties now in Finland. I have a lot of really good friends in Finland who I don't get to see very often, but they are like some of the most genuine friends I've ever had. It's really worth making the effort to create a friendship with a Finnish person, because generally speaking, they are some of the best friendships I've ever had and the most genuine. So I hope you like this video, guys. If you want to know more about my experience in Finland, or you want to talk more about Finland, please let me know in the comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up so I know that it didn't suck completely. Oh God, I'm so confident in myself. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Rakastan teitä kaikkia ja mä oon tosi ylpeä, että mä voisin sanoa, että asuin Suomessa ja mulla on suomalainen kavereita ja pysty puhumaan pikkasen suomen kieltä, ja mä oon tosi iloinen, että mulla on vielä suomalainen fanneja ja seuraajata. You know what I'm talking about. Te tiedätte, mitä mä yritän puhua. And a Finnish word for you to learn is kiss, is puss. So at the end of this video, I'm gonna say puss puss pussy. I haven't shaved my armpit. It's okay though, because I'm tattooed.